The cancellation of a film is never fun for those working hard on the film and the fans waiting eagerly for a concept that they've been waiting to see come to the big screens. The following are a few movies that I personally wish had made it through the tricky movie business and onto the big screen for all of us to enjoy. If you watched X-Men First Class, you no doubt fell in love with Magneto and his origin scenes. But what you may not know is that it's reported that a lot of those scenes came directly from a script from an X-Men Origins Magneto movie that unfortunately fell to the waysides after the 2007 writer's strike. The studio had up-in-the-air screenwriter Sheldon Turner attached and David Goyer to direct, who helped pen the Dark Knight trilogy. X-Men Origins had another movie already in development, however, Wolverine, and we already know how much of a disaster that film was, and because of this disaster, the studios figured a Magneto film would do poorly as he's just not as popular as Wolverine. An origin story with Michael Fassbender as Magneto and James McAvoy as Xavier would have been spectacular. Here's to hoping they revisit this idea down the road. I'm a huge Pixar fan, and it kills me to know that anything by Pixar would be cancelled, except for a second or third Cars film, which is exactly why this movie is on the list. Newt was set to be directed by 7-time Academy Award winner for sound Gary Rydstrom, who also helped write the script. The film would follow a rare newt who would be forced to mate with the last remaining female newt of their species. The newt, however, was eventually shelved. No reason has been confirmed, but the striking resemblance of the story with Rio, another animal forced to mate to save their species, is the official rumor. The next one is a bit tricky for me. I'm a big fan of Darren Aronofsky and his films, and I love Batman. The two together could have made a great pair, and we're set to do just that with the comic Batman Year One by Frank Miller. Frank Miller even had a hand in helping write the script, but there were numerous changes from the original comic that would have left fans scratching their heads. Most notably, Batman would not be rich. After the death of his parents, Bruce would end up losing his fortune and would have to rely on reading books to learn everything, as he would be homeless. Yes, homeless. This is a completely different side of Batman that, maybe for the better, was never made, as it led to the eventual Christopher Nolan trilogy that was, as we know, spectacular. You've no doubt heard of Steven Spielberg and his films, perhaps even E.T. That aforementioned film was inspired by the cancelled project Night Skies, which would have seen a horror film by Steven Spielberg, which sounds horrifyingly awesome. The original story for Night Skies focused on 11 alien scientists attempting to communicate with animals to find out which species on Earth were sentient. Back in 2005, Xbox and Halo fans went into a frenzy with the announcement of a Halo movie in the works, with Peter Jackson attached to produce the film, hot off the success of The Lord of the Rings. Unfortunately for Halo fans, this movie was never made for a number of reasons. Firstly, the rumored budget of $200 million was a steep price for the studio, and Microsoft was asking for a lot of money up front, and on top of that, a lot of creative control on the project. Was Microsoft a little too greedy in terms of what they wanted for their IP? We'll never know, but what we do know is that we missed out on a great movie opportunity. Whether you think M. Night Shyamalan is a visionary or a one-hit wonder, there are many people who, like myself, fell in love with the movie Unbreakable. Unbreakable, like many superhero films, was heavily an origin story. A sequel was planned and apparently an entire trilogy, but moviegoers didn't flock to the screens for the film like Sixth Sense and weren't happy enough with the ending that Unbreakable brought to the table. Oh, what could have been? Jim Carrey in his prime and two of the best comedy writers of all time coming together for a sequel of Dumb and Dumber. As a huge fan of South Park, I even dressed up as Terrence and Phillip on Halloween this year with my girlfriend. This would have been a match made in heaven. Unfortunately for everyone, Trey Parker and Matt Stone were still very young at this time, and when offered the writing job, quickly accepted without realizing how much time they would need to invest into their own show, South Park. We eventually did get a sequel, but other than a few fart jokes here and there, it just didn't live up to what could have been. If you've seen the recent Mad Max movie, you know that George Miller directing a superhero flick would be amazing. If you haven't seen the movie, then immediately find a way to watch that film after you finish watching this video. It's that good. During the production of Batman Begins, George Miller was producing a Justice League movie, which would include Batman, with a budget of around $220 million. A script was ready, the cast was set, and the director was ready to go, and then BAM! The 2007 writer's strike struck again, kicking DC right in the nutsack. However, things were still looking good until Australia pulled back their tax incentives for the project, leaving the film a little too costly for Warner Brothers after the success of a solo Batman film. Instead, they moved on to a great project like Green Lantern. Ugh, DC, you could have had the Avengers before the Avengers, you fools! I'm honestly not a huge fan of Superman as a character. He's a bit too powerful for my taste, but there's definitely one director that would easily get me excited to see a Superman movie, J.J. Abrams. If you can put your trust in him with Star Wars, then you can literally put your trust in him with anything. From 2002 to 2004, J.J. was hard at work on a project titled Superman Flyby. However, at this point of time, he was not attached as a director, merely a screenwriter. After a slew of problems in the pre-production phase, the project was eventually canned after Bryan Singer pitched his own version of a Superman movie to the studio, which would eventually become Superman Returns. BioShock. Oh man, what a fantastic film this could have been. Anyone that has played the BioShock series can tell you firsthand just how amazing an adaptation to film would be. The film was in early stages of production with a few directors attached back in 2009, with a release set for 2011, but numerous problems, particularly the budget, prevented the film from gaining traction. Photos eventually surfaced of the concept art, and unshockingly, it looked amazing and makes me weep large man tears every time I think about it over my keyboard. These were just a handful of movies that I was sad to see get cancelled personally, but we all have different tastes in movies, so let me know which movies you were furious to see get canned down below. Thanks for watching TGN. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. My name is David Brown, and until next time, pray BioShock reemerges. Seriously, come on!